Good morning, everybody. It is September 30th. Well, it is for you. Again, I'm recording these earlier. So, hello to you people from the future, as I say sometimes. We're continuing to work our way through in our daily devotions through Luke's gospel. And we're continuing to work through that part that is Luke's version of the Sermon on the Mount, and we've done some of these things about telling us what we need to do, like loving our enemies and even loving those that don't love us, and all of that. Today we get into a little different thing. We're going to be dealing with some do's, but it's a lot of more do nots. Do not do this, as I say. And it's really the NRSV calls this section judging others. Oh boy, that's difficult. We kind of like to judge others, don't we? We tend to relish in that. Let's not be doing it. So that's what Jesus says. I didn't. That's not from me. That's from Christ. All right. Just so you know. Let's look at chapter 6 in Luke's Gospel, 37 and 38. Two verses is all we're doing today. So easy peasy, right? Yeah. Well, as you know, sometimes when you deal with a small number of verses, it becomes more difficult. Wish it wasn't that way, but sometimes it is. In fact, sometimes just one or two words can be pretty hard to deal with in Scripture. Judging others. Chapter 6 in Luke's Gospel, verses 37 and 38. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. Now, we don't like, we believe in grace and faith and all of those, and we're not works oriented. We try to pin that one on the Catholics, but guess what? This sounds a little works oriented, don't it? James, faith without works is dead. Always remember James. Love James. Do not judge. We're not supposed to judge people. We don't like when we're judged. We don't like when people pick apart our failings and why do we want to focus on everybody else's flaws when we don't want them to think about ours? Well, don't do that. Don't do that. Again, that's not from me. That's from Jesus. Just so you're clear. Do not condemn. No. Judging is one thing. Condemning is worse, right? Yeah. Not only do we go to the point of judging each other, but we condemn others. We oh, did you hear about such? Wow. Do we have any proof of it? Nope. Oh my gosh, I think very lowly of that person because of this rumor that I've heard that probably, quite honestly, isn't true, more than likely not. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. There's a positive one, right? Forgive. That's what were we talking about for the yesterday? Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For He is kind and ungrateful. He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. He forgives, right? Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. That was yesterday. We're continuing on from that. Funny how Scripture just kind of flows from one to the next, isn't it? We're supposed to be merciful. If we're merciful, we're going to get mercy. If we forgive, we're going to be forgiven. Give, if we're generous, if we give of our love and our time and our money as well, it will be given to you. Whatever you give to God, it comes back to you. It may not come back in the form of money, but it may come back in the form of love. It may come in the form of all kinds of things, support, what have you. A good measure, what you give is what you get. You're shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. It's placed before you. The grace that you give. We don't want to preach a prosperity gospel. I'm not preaching that because I don't really particularly like prosperity gospel. But here we seem to see that. It's kind of a funny little bit of Scripture, isn't it? For the measure you give will be the measure you get. You get as good as you give. And there is no, you may not, it may not seem like that. Sometimes we always say, no good deed goes unpunished, don't we? Sometimes say that. That's not scriptural. That's That's not at all what Jesus is saying here. He's saying, what we give and we'll get something for it. It's not works oriented, but it's understanding that if our faith is so large, if we really love God, we can't help but to love His creation. We can't help but to give back to His creation, and that should really be a part of our faith. Is that we should have so much faith that we are willing to give to God's creation and to do God's work. So with that, I'm going to end you up for today. Again, I'm trying to keep these shorter while I'm off on vacation. I'm hoping that I've got things lined up for tomorrow night for drive-through communion, but I'll tell you more about that in tomorrow's video because I'm working on that today as I'm preparing. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Have a blessed day, and even though I'm speaking to you from the past, in the future on the 30th, I hope you're a blessing to someone. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.